Peace begins with clarity, and clarity begins with recognizing the line between what belongs to you and what does not. The Stoics taught that our lives are divided into two realms, the realm of control and the realm beyond it. Within your control are your thoughts, your choices, your actions, and the discipline you apply to your character. Beyond your control lies everything else: fortune, reputation, the behavior of others, the randomness of the world. Most of our suffering is born from confusing these two realms, from trying to bend reality into what we wish instead of aligning ourselves with what is. Think about it. How much time do you waste worrying about outcomes you cannot command? You plan, you prepare, you dream, and still the world unfolds in ways you never expected. A storm arrives when you planned for sun. A betrayal comes when you counted on loyalty. A failure strikes when you gave your best effort. You cannot govern the storm, the betrayal, or the failure, but you can govern how you respond. And in that response, in that space between stimulus and reaction, lies your freedom. When you focus only on what belongs to you, you conserve your energy. You become steady. A man who tries to control the world is tossed about like a ship without anchor, but a man who controls himself is unshakable, no matter the tide. Epictetus reminded us we cannot choose our external circumstances, but we can always choose how we respond to them. That is the essence of peace, to stand firm in the storm, unbroken by what lies beyond your reach. This principle is not about weakness, nor is it about surrender. It is about strength. To accept what you cannot change is not to give up. It is to rise above illusion. It is to stop fighting battles that cannot be won and to direct your strength where it matters most, within. The man who accepts the limits of his control is not defeated. He is liberated. He is no longer chained to anger when events shift, no longer enslaved by fear when uncertainty comes, no longer bitter when fortune turns against him. He walks steady because his peace no longer depends on the fragile conditions of the world. Consider the man who loses his wealth. If his peace was tied to gold, he is destroyed. But if his peace is tied to virtue, he remains intact. Consider the soldier whose plans collapse in battle. If his calm was tied to victory, he is broken. But if his calm is tied to courage and duty, he endures. The foundation of your peace must be built on what cannot be taken from you. And the only thing that cannot be taken from you is the sovereignty of your own mind. To live with peace in uncertain times, you must not only accept what happens, but learn to love it. Amor fati, love of fate, is one of the most powerful Stoic principles, for it transforms hardship into harmony and struggle into strength. The average man resents his trials, curses his misfortunes, and wishes for a life without obstacles. But the Stoic embraces reality exactly as it is, not as he wishes it to be. To love your fate is to rise above complaint, to look at every twist of life and say, this too is part of me, this too is necessary for my path. It is easy to love fate when fortune smiles, when health is strong, when success flows. But Stoicism is not forged in comfort, it is forged in fire. Amor fati is tested in the moments you would rather escape, in the pain you would rather avoid. When loss comes, when plans collapse, when uncertainty thickens like a fog, that is the true ground where love of fate must be practiced. The question is not why me, but how can this serve me? Every moment has meaning if you choose to see it. Every struggle contains a seed of strength if you choose to nurture it. Think of a sculptor carving stone. The chisel strikes are harsh, loud, and relentless. Yet without them, the stone remains shapeless. Life is the sculptor, and you are the marble. Each hardship, each disappointment, each obstacle is a strike of the chisel shaping you into who you must become. To resent those strikes is to resist your own becoming. To love them is to understand that the pain is not random, but purposeful, leading you towards your truer form. Amor fati is not passive acceptance. It is not sitting idle as life moves you. It is active engagement with reality, a choice to treat every event as fuel for greatness. When you love your fate, you no longer waste time wishing for a different life. You live fully in the one you have. You stop seeing difficulty as punishment and start seeing it as training. You stop fearing change and start welcoming it as the natural flow of existence. You stop being at war with life, and in that peace you find immense strength. Marcus Aurelius himself, emperor of Rome burdened with war, betrayal, and disease, wrote in his Meditations, "A blazing fire makes flame and brightness out of everything thrown into it." This is amor fati, to burn everything life gives you, good or bad, into fuel for the fire of your spirit. to not merely endure what happens, but to love it, to use it, to welcome it as necessary. With this mindset, uncertainty cannot disturb you because you are no longer demanding that life follow your script. You are flowing with the script of life itself, and in that flow lies unbreakable peace. When life blocks your path, the average man curses the obstacle, turns back, or collapses in frustration. But the Stoic sees the obstacle differently, not as a barrier, but as a teacher. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." This truth is not philosophy for comfort, but a weapon for survival. It teaches that every difficulty you face is not an interruption to your journey. It is the journey. The obstacle is not against you. It is shaping you. It is not here to break you. It is here to forge you. Think of the river that flows down a mountain. Rocks may block its course, but the river does not stop. It flows around, it carves through, it adapts, and over time, the very rocks that once resisted become the river's sculpture. This is how the Stoic moves through life. Obstacles do not end the journey. They guide it. The strength of your character, the depth of your resilience, and the sharpness of your mind are all formed by the trials you face, not the ease you enjoy. An obstacle is a mirror. It reflects what is weak within you, and in facing it, you are given the chance to grow strong. Without obstacles, there is no strength, no discipline, no mastery. A warrior without battle is no warrior at all. To live without struggle is to live without progress. This is why the Stoic does not run from difficulty. He welcomes it. He knows that every setback carries within it the seed of opportunity. Every problem carries the chance to build endurance. Every failure carries the path to wisdom. The mind wants to resist, to say, why is this happening? Why now? Why me? But Stoicism answers, it is happening to strengthen you. It is happening now because now is the time. It is happening to you because you are capable of facing it. The obstacle is not random cruelty. It is your arena. It is your training ground. To see it this way is to be free from despair, because you understand that nothing is wasted, nothing is meaningless. Even pain, even loss, even defeat can be turned into power when you decide to use it. Imagine a man who fails in his pursuit of wealth. If he collapses, he has lost twice, once in failure and again in spirit. But if he learns resourcefulness, humility, and perseverance through the failure, then the obstacle has become his teacher, his way forward. Imagine another who suffers betrayal. If he turns bitter, the wound deepens. But if he learns discernment, wisdom, and independence, then the betrayal becomes the foundation of his strength. This is the art of the Stoic, to take what was meant to destroy and turn it into the very material that builds. Your mind is the citadel of your life. Everything you are, everything you become begins in thought. If your mind is weak, if it is unguarded, then no matter your wealth, your status, your strength, you will fall. But if your mind is strong, disciplined, and secure, then even in chaos, even in poverty, even in suffering, you remain free. The Stoics taught that no enemy, no tyrant, no circumstance can conquer a man whose mind is fortified against corruption. To guard your mind like a fortress is to stand as the protector of your inner kingdom. What enters your mind shapes your soul. Words, images, opinions, fears, they are like visitors knocking on the gates. If you open the doors without discernment, if you allow every influence inside, then soon your fortress is not yours anymore. Fear takes root, anger festers, desire chains you. But if you stand watchful, if you question what seeks to enter, then only what strengthens you is allowed within. A disciplined mind does not grant access to every passing thought. It chooses carefully which ones to entertain and which ones to banish. Consider how often people hand over their peace to others. An insult enters their ears, and they let it invade their mind. A rumor spreads, and they allow it to poison their thoughts. News of fear and panic floods the world, and they absorb it until they are restless. This is weakness, leaving your fortress unguarded, leaving the gates open for any enemy to walk in. The Stoic refuses this. He remains the master of his own thoughts, choosing reason over impulse, clarity over confusion, calm over chaos. Guarding the mind requires discipline. Discipline to resist negative influences. Discipline to silence the inner critic that whispers of fear and doubt. Discipline to practice stillness, reflection, and meditation, training the mind to remain steady under pressure. Just as a fortress must be built strong with stone and defended with vigilance, so too must your mind be built with wisdom and protected with awareness. Every book you read, every voice you listen to, every thought you choose to dwell upon is either strengthening your walls or weakening them. The world outside will always try to breach your defenses. Temptation will come disguised as pleasure. Manipulation will come disguised as truth. Fear will come disguised as caution. If you do not guard the gates, these intruders will rule your inner life. But if you remain vigilant, if you train your awareness, then nothing enters without your permission. You may hear the insult, but you do not absorb it. You may see the chaos, but you do not internalize it. You may face the storm, but you remain centered because your fortress is intact. A strong mind is not cold or unfeeling. It is clear, it is steady, it is free. It is a mind that does not bend under pressure, that does not panic under uncertainty, that does not shatter when life grows difficult. To guard your mind like a fortress is to stand sovereign, untouchable by the noise of the world, unbroken by the weight of adversity, undefeated in the only realm that truly belongs to you. The world will always offer you comfort. It will tempt you with ease, with pleasure, with the promise of a life without struggle. But the Stoic knows that comfort is not peace, and ease is not freedom. Comfort weakens, dulls, and enslaves, while virtue strengthens, sharpens, and liberates. To choose virtue over comfort is to take the harder road, the road of discipline, of justice, of courage, of wisdom, even when every voice around you tells you to rest, to indulge, to give in. Virtue is the highest good, the one thing fully within your control, the one treasure that cannot be taken from you. Comfort, on the other hand, depends on fragile circumstances, wealth, possessions, reputation, the approval of others. The man who chases comfort is a slave to chance, but the man who lives by virtue is free, no matter what fortune brings. To choose virtue is to act with integrity, to live in alignment with reason, to do what is right not because it is easy, but because it is true. Consider the soldier on the battlefield. Comfort whispers, stay behind, avoid danger, save yourself, but virtue commands courage, duty, sacrifice for the greater good. Consider the leader in power. Comfort tempts with corruption, with self-interest, with the easy path of pleasing the crowd, but virtue demands justice, fairness, and service, even when it costs. Consider the individual in daily life. Comfort calls him to laziness, distraction, indulgence. Virtue demands discipline, focus, mastery of the self. These are not small choices. They are the measure of who you are. Comfort is temporary, fleeting, and deceptive. It gives a moment of relief, but it leaves you weaker. Virtue is permanent, enduring, and strengthening. It gives you a foundation that does not break, a sense of peace that cannot be bought or stolen. Every time you choose virtue over comfort, you are fortifying your character, proving to yourself that you are more than your impulses, more than your desires, more than your fears. The man who lives for comfort will always be restless, chasing the next pleasure, fleeing the next pain. But the man who lives for virtue is steady, rooted, unshaken by either pleasure or pain. The Stoics did not reject comfort entirely. They understood it may come and it may go, but they refused to depend on it. They trained themselves to endure cold, hunger, hardship, so that when comfort was stripped away, they were not destroyed. This is the essence of strength, to be able to stand firm when everything soft and pleasant is gone because your peace was never tied to it in the first place. To practice self-denial, to embrace discomfort willingly, is not suffering for its own sake. It is training the soul to be free. To choose virtue over comfort is to choose the path of the strong. It is to reject the illusion of an easy life and embrace the reality of a meaningful one. It is to understand that peace does not come from avoiding struggle, but from facing it with integrity. Comfort may soothe the body, but only virtue nourishes the soul. To live wisely, you must remember a truth most people run from: you will die. Memento mori. Remember, death was not meant to bring despair, but clarity. It strips away illusions. It silences trivial worries. It awakens urgency. When you hold mortality in your mind, every moment becomes sharper, every choice becomes clearer, every breath becomes more valuable. Death is not the enemy, it is the reminder that life is fragile, uncertain, and fleeting, and because of that, it must not be wasted. Most people live as if they have endless time. They postpone what matters, they chase distractions, they bury themselves in resentment, fear, and trivial pursuit, forgetting that the clock is always ticking. The Stoic refuses this blindness. By remembering death, he remembers life. He sees that tomorrow is not promised, that the future is not guaranteed, and that the only time he truly owns is the present. And so he lives fully, not later, not someday, but now. Memento mori does not call you to morbid thoughts, it calls you to purposeful action. When you remember you are mortal, you no longer waste energy on pettiness. You stop arguing over trifles, stop obsessing over reputation, stop clinging to grudges. You begin to focus on what truly matters: virtue, wisdom, justice, courage, love, service. You align your life with principles that outlast your breath. In this way, the thought of death does not darken your spirit, it liberates it. Think of the man who forgets he will die. He spends his days hoarding wealth, chasing recognition, indulging in every comfort, believing it will last forever. But when death comes, as it always does, all his treasures crumble, all his comforts vanish, and he is left with nothing. Now think of the man who lives with memento mori. He spends his days cultivating character, loving deeply, acting with honor, leaving behind deeds that endure beyond his years. When death comes for him, he does not fear it, for he has lived well, and what he leaves behind is eternal in the hearts of others. Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, wrote daily reminders to himself of mortality, not because he ruled in weakness, but because he understood that power, wealth, and glory mean nothing if they are not used wisely before time runs out. To remember death is to remember your humanity, to strip away arrogance, and to live humbly, knowing that no man escapes the same end. Seneca taught that it is not that life is too short, but that we waste much of it. Memento mori calls you to stop wasting, to stop drifting, to take hold of your days before they slip away. To carry this principle is to carry freedom. Freedom from fear, because death cannot be avoided, only accepted. Freedom from regret, because you live with urgency and purpose. Freedom from illusion, because you see clearly what truly matters. Death will come, but if you remember it daily, it will not come as a thief. It will come as a companion that has walked beside you all along.